With the launch of Space Marine 2 coming out this week, I've come up with the brilliant idea of painting my own Lieutenant Titus, former firstborn captain and commander of the Ultramarines 2nd Company, who now has become a Primaris Marine, demoted from captain to lieutenant after all the warp shenanigans and suspected heresy from the storyline of the first game. Though a model for him already does exist, but unfortunately I'm all the way down here in Australia and there's zero chance that I'm ever going to be able to get a copy of the Space Marine 2 board game. Plus, I don't really like the new model. There's something about the pose that's just off, and also having a chainsword in the left hand it's heresy. I hate it. Burn it with a heavy flamer. Sorry if anybody's left-handed, I just don't like it. Though maybe it's just all an excuse because I actually just can't get the model without spending a couple $100 on eBay. Anyway, let's see if we can kit bash a better Titus using a standard Space Marine Lieutenant and a whole bunch of spare parts. First, we'll need to open up the kit and cut out all the pieces. Using my hobby knife, I'll trim off any plastic nubs and scrape away any of the mold lines. I'll also use fine grit sandpaper to smooth out any rough surfaces, and don't forget to drill out that gun barrel for added detail. With the basic Lieutenant prepped and ready, it's time to find the additional pieces. For Titus, I'm using a right-handed chainsword from the Black Templar's Sword Brethren kit, a helmet from the standard Intercessor kit, and one shoulder pad and one reliquary. I'll also need some green stuff and plastic glue for the next steps. We'll start the assembly by gluing the chest and legs together. Once that's set, I'll cut this part off and clean up the area. Next, let's roll out some green stuff and cut it into rectangles. These will become the cloth details for the front and back of the legs. Shape the green stuff to mimic the flow of fabric, making it look natural. Now, glue on the reliquary, the chainsword, the helmet, and the shoulder pads. I've also added a bit of green stuff to the joint of the right arm to help with positioning. Normally, I don't convert or kit bash that many models, so I've been having a lot of fun with this one. Plus, it's given me an excuse to whip out all my old parts and sprues that I've been holding on to for pretty much over half my life. That being said, it's time to paint this guy up. Start with a black primer to create a solid foundation. Next, use an airbrush to apply white ink where light would naturally hit the armor. This technique will give you a refined zenithal highlight. Apply a gloss varnish over the entire model. This will help with the black oil wash to flow into the panel lines. Take your time with the wash, and if any excess paint builds up or pools, use a Q-tip and some white spirits to clean it up. Once the wash is dry, apply some Talisar blue contrast paint to make the shading vibrant and blue. For the deeper shadows, I use some Liquitex blue ink. Then, with some Vallejo black paint, I cover up all the areas that I don't want to be blue. I'm using Vallejo light sea blue to highlight all the edges of the model, remembering to take my time and be super patient with this process. Because of all the work we did on the blue armor, it can be very hard to fix up any mistakes. For the cloth parts, like between the legs and the purity seals, paint them with Xandru dust. Build up the colour with watered down scale colour brown leather to add shadows. Then reapply Xandru dust mixed with Vallejo off-white to brighten and highlight. Paint all the leather pouches and holsters with off-white, leaving a scratched texture. This will help when applying snakebite leather. Highlight with a mix of Towelite ochre and snakebite leather. For the eye lenses, start with a solid coat of corn red. Glaze towards Evil Sun Scarlet in the inner corner, Then using Troll Slayer Orange, glaze on the underside. Once that's done, add a white glint on the outer edge of each lens. For the lieutenant markings, use corn red to paint a stripe down the helmet. Once dry, paint stripes on the outer side of the red with sky grey. Build up the colour with Mephiston red, and then add an edge highlight with Tau light ochre. For the gold areas, I apply AK's rusty gold and highlight with old gold. Once it's dry, add Gilliman flesh to add some contrast. Use some sky grey on the right knee pad and then some lead belcher for all the steel parts. Paint all the wax with pink horror, followed by some flesh terrors contrast paint. Using Agrax Earthshade, apply it all over the steel areas. Then, highlight with a 50-50 mix of chrome and lead belcher. Highlight all the weapons with Dark Reaper and the grey knee pad with some off-white. With a fine-tipped brush, add writing to the purity seals and the armband. Paint the bones in the reliquary with some cloth and brown, gradually transitioning to off-white. For the transfers, I apply a gloss varnish to the areas where the transfers will go. Using decal set to position the transfers, press down with a paper towel. And once dry, seal with a matte varnish. Time for the base. Glue some corkboard pieces and break them into strips. Shape them into a natural structure and cover with Vallejo earth texture. Prime the base black and then paint with scale color brown leather. Using some Steel Legion drab, spray onto the raised areas, leaving brown into the shadows. Dry brushing with some off-white, and then I use some Administarum Grey through the airbrush on the edges for a stone-like effect. Finish with another dry brush and then paint the rim of the base black. To complete this model, I glue on Titus and then I add some grass tufts. And there we have it. Let's have a look at the finished model. I hope you all have enjoyed my take on Lieutenant Titus as much as I had bringing him to life. I absolutely could not wait to get my hands on Space Marine 2 and slay some filthy Xenos. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you liked this video, and if you want to share any of your own creations, please join our Discord, link down below. To the community of painters, players, and lore masters, thank you so much for joining me today. Your enthusiasm and support fuel this channel and our shared passion for the grimdark that is Warhammer 40k. Until our next adventure across the warp, I'll see you War Masters next time.